My phone buzzed during a sales meeting, and I saw Mom's name flash across the screen. I let it go to voicemail, but she called again immediately. Then again. My stomach dropped because Mom never called like this unless something was catastrophically wrong. I excused myself and answered in the hallway. Her voice came through in panicked sobs. They were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Foreclosure notice arrived that morning, 30 days to pay or lose the house. Meanwhile, my 30-year-old brother Derek just bought a brand new truck and refused to help. I sat in my car outside the office for 20 minutes after that call, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The Indianapolis skyline stretched out before me, all glass and steel and ambition, and I felt like I was watching my carefully constructed life crack down the middle. 7 years. I had been secretly paying my parents' mortgage for 7 years, ever since Dad's construction accident left him disabled and unable to work. Mom swore it would be temporary, just until they got back on their feet. I was 25 then, fresh off a promotion to junior sales manager, making decent money for the first time in my life. Helping my parents felt like the right thing to do, the good son thing to do. But 6 months ago, I discovered the truth during a surprise visit. I walked into their kitchen and found a bank statement on the counter, showing a monthly transfer of $1,500 to Derek. $1,500. Every single month. While he lived, rent-free in their basement, and claimed he was struggling to find work. When I confronted them, Mom got defensive immediately. She said Derek was dealing with depression, that the job market was tough, that he needed support to get back on his feet. Dad just looked away, ashamed but silent. That was when I stopped paying their mortgage. Cold turkey. I told them I was done enabling this dysfunction. Now, driving through familiar streets toward my childhood home, I felt that old cocktail of guilt and rage bubbling up again. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Modest ranch houses with chain-link fences and basketball hoops over garage doors. Working-class America. The kind of place where people helped their neighbors and everyone knew your business. I pulled into the driveway behind a gleaming black Ford F-150, still sporting temporary dealer plates. $45,000 worth of truck. Easy. Derek's truck. Inside, I found my parents sitting at the kitchen table, exactly as I had pictured them during the drive over. Mom's eyes were red and puffy, her hands trembling as she pushed a foreclosure notice toward me. Dad sat hunched over, looking smaller than I remembered, his disabled right arm resting uselessly in his lap. Bills and statements covered the entire table, a paper monument to financial chaos. The familiar smell of my childhood home, coffee and lemon furniture polish, now mixed with something sour. Fear, maybe. Desperation. Derek was in the living room, sprawled across the couch with a video game controller in his hands. He glanced up when I walked in, gave me a lazy nod, then returned his attention to the TV screen where animated soldiers were shooting each other. He wore an expensive-looking hoodie and new sneakers. His beard was neatly trimmed. He looked comfortable. He looked like someone without a care in the world. Mom started talking immediately, her words tumbling over each other. They were $72,000 in debt. The mortgage was only part of it. Credit cards, medical bills, a home equity line they had taken out last year. She needed my help. They needed my help. I was the only one who could fix this. Her voice rose higher and higher, teetering on the edge of hysteria. I took a deep breath and asked the question I already knew would detonate a bomb. Where did all the money go? The money I sent for 7 years. What happened to it? And Mom's face flushed. She got immediately defensive, her voice sharp. They had expenses, Travis. Real expenses. Dad's medications cost $800 a month even with Medicare. The roof needed repairs. The furnace died 2 winters ago. And Derek needed help getting back on his feet. I turned to face my brother. Derek, why aren't you working? He didn't even pause his game. The job market is tough, man. Nobody's hiring. I'm dealing with depression. You wouldn't understand because everything's always been easy for you. Easy for me. I wanted to laugh. I had worked full-time through college, graduated with $30,000 in student loan debt, and spent my 20s climbing a corporate ladder while living in a studio apartment and eating ramen for dinner. But this was the narrative Derek had always spun, that I was the golden child, the one who had it easy, while he struggled with demons only he could understand. Dad finally spoke, his voice quiet. We gave Derek about $1,500 a month for expenses. To help him, while he looked for work. For how long? Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. 5 years. 5 years. $90,000. They had given my brother $90,000 over 5 years, while he sat in their basement playing video games and claiming the world was against him. And that didn't even include the free rent, free food, free utilities. I asked about the truck. Derek shifted on the couch but still didn't look at me. Mom jumped in. He needed reliable transportation for job interviews. They helped him with the down payment, $12,000. Money they borrowed on a credit card. At 19% interest. I felt something inside me snap. I walked over and stood between Derek and the TV. Look at me. He finally paused the game, his expression annoyed. What? Get a job. Any job. McDonald's is hiring. Walmart is hiring. Get a job and start helping Mom and Dad. Derek's face twisted into something ugly. You think you're better than me because you wear a suit to work? You think I haven't tried? The system is rigged against people like me. You sold out, became a corporate drone. I refused to sacrifice my mental health for some soul-crushing minimum wage job. Mom put her hand on my arm. Travis, please, don't fight. We need to work together as a family. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the truth I had been avoiding for years. She would always choose Derek. She would always make excuses for him. She would always expect me to sacrifice myself to compensate for his failures. Dad saw it too. I could see it in his eyes, the shame and helplessness of a man who had lost control of his own family. I took a breath and made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. I'll look at your finances. I'll see what options you have. But I'm not writing a check. Not this time. Mom's face crumpled. Travis, please. We'll lose the house. Then you'll lose the house. I'm sorry, but I can't keep doing this. You have to make real changes. Derek has to get a job. You have to stop enabling him. I'll help you figure out a plan, but I'm not just throwing money at this anymore. I walked toward the door. Derek called after me, his voice dripping with contempt. Some brother you are. I kept walking. Outside, the evening air felt cool on my face. I felt lighter somehow, like I had finally said words that had been trapped in my chest for years. I got in my car and reached for my keys. That's when I noticed my tires. All 4 of them were slashed, long, deliberate cuts in the sidewalls. I stood there staring, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was watering her garden next door. She called over to me. Travis, honey, you need to see something. She pulled out her phone and showed me security camera footage from her doorbell. The timestamp was from an hour before I arrived. The video showed Derek walking casually to my car with a knife in his hand. He looked directly at the camera, smiled, and then proceeded to slash all 4 tires. Methodical, deliberate. He took his time. I felt ice water flood my veins. I walked back into the house, the video playing on Mrs. Patterson's phone. Derek was back on the couch, controller in hand. I stood in front of the TV again and held up the phone. The smile that spread across his face was chilling. Prove it. Besides, Mom and Dad need you here tonight to fix this mess. Guess you're staying. Mom looked confused. Dad's face went pale. But I understood perfectly. This was a setup. Derek had orchestrated this entire thing. He knew I would come. He knew I would try to leave. He trapped me here deliberately, forcing me to stay and wear me down until I agreed to pay. I called a tow truck. The estimate was $800 for 4 new tires and towing to a shop. The driver said he could get there in an hour. Mom begged me to stay the night, to please not leave angry, to please help them figure this out. Her voice had that particular pitch that had always made me cave, that frequency calibrated perfectly to activate my guilt. Against my better judgment, I agreed to stay. Just for tonight. I couldn't sleep. The guest room was exactly as it had been when I moved out at 18, still decorated with my high school football trophies and a faded poster of an Indianapolis Colts team from 15 years ago. I lay on the narrow bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the familiar sounds of the house settling, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the distant rumble of trains from the nearby tracks. Around midnight, I heard voices. My parents were arguing in the kitchen directly below my room. I crept to the heating vent in the floor and listened. Dad's voice came through first, stronger than I had heard it in years. "Enough, Helen. Enough. We need to tell Derek to leave. We need to sell this house and downsize to something we can actually afford. Travis is right. We enabled this." Mom's response was sharp. "We can't abandon our son, Richard. We can't just throw him out on the street. Travis will help. He always does. He's just being stubborn right now, but he'll come around. He always comes around." Hearing her say it out loud, hearing her certainty that she could manipulate me, made something crystallize in my mind. This wasn't love. This was a pattern. A dysfunction so deep it had become the foundation of our family. Mom needed Derek to need her. It gave her purpose, made her feel important, and she needed me to fund it, to play the role of responsible son who cleaned up everyone else's messes. Dad tried again. "Helen, we're losing our home. Our son slashed Travis's tires to trap him here. Can't you see how sick this is? Derek will get better. He just needs time. And support. Travis makes 6 figures. He can afford to help us. He's being selfish." I closed my eyes and accepted a truth I had been running from. My mother would never change. She had built her entire identity around protecting Derek from consequences, and she would burn the whole family down before admitting she was wrong. Morning came too early. I splashed water on my face in the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, older than 32. There were lines around my eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. The tow truck arrived at 7. I went downstairs to find Mom already at the kitchen table with papers spread everywhere. She had been up early, preparing her assault. She pushed a handwritten plan across the table to me. "If you pay the $72,000, we'll make Derek get a job. We'll put it in writing. We'll have a contract. Please, Travis. This is our home. 35 years we've lived here. We raised you boys here. You can't let us lose it." I said no. Simple as that. Just no. Dad looked up from his coffee. His eyes met mine and something passed between us. An understanding, maybe even respect. He cleared his throat. "Your mother and I discussed this last night. Travis is right. We need to sell the house. Derek needs to leave. This has gone too far." Mom's face went white, then red. Her hand went to her chest. Her breathing became rapid and shallow. Oh God, my heart. Richard, my heart." Dad jumped up, knocking his coffee over. His disabled arm made him clumsy, frantic. He reached for his phone to call 911. I had seen this performance before. Once when I tried to move out for college. Once when I suggested Derek should pay rent. Mom's famous heart episodes that appeared whenever she was about to lose an argument. Derek appeared in the doorway, perfectly timed. "Look what you're doing to her. Look what you're doing, Travis. You make 6 figures, and you won't help your own parents? What kind of son are you?" That's when I noticed Derek holding something. My mail. Several envelopes addressed to me, opened. He saw me looking and smiled. "Yeah, I've been checking your mail. I know about your promotion. $20,000 bonus, right? Nice. You can definitely afford to help." My hands clenched into fists. "You went through my mail? It was sitting here." I got curious. "Sue me." "That's a federal crime." Derek laughed. "Good luck proving I did anything wrong. You're the one who abandoned Mom and Dad. You're the one who's letting them lose their house. I wonder what your fancy company would think about that. I bet your boss would love to hear how Travis, the hotshot sales manager, won't even help his disabled father and sick mother." The threat was clear. Derek had been studying me, gathering information, preparing weapons. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was warfare. My phone rang. My boss, calling at 7:30 in the morning. My stomach dropped. Before I even answered, "Travis, we need you to come in immediately. There's been a serious accusation." "What kind of accusation?" "Someone sent an anonymous email overnight, claiming you've been embezzling money from client accounts. They included documentation, bank statements, transfer records. We need to suspend you pending an investigation." The room tilted. "What? That's insane. I haven't done anything. I understand. But company policy requires us to investigate any financial misconduct allegations. We need your badge, your laptop, and your company credit card." This morning, I looked at Derek. He was watching me with an expression of satisfied cruelty. He knew. Somehow, he knew this call was coming because he had made it happen. "I'll be there in an hour." I hung up and faced my brother. "What did you do?" Derek held up his hands in mock innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about, but I knew. I knew with absolute certainty." Derek had access to my old laptop, the one I had left in my old bedroom years ago. I had never wiped it. Never thought I needed to. It was probably still logged into my email, maybe even some old work accounts I had forgotten about. And Derek had months, maybe years, to dig through it, to learn my passwords, to create forgeries. Mom had recovered from her heart episode with remarkable speed. She was watching me with cold eyes. "Maybe if you had helped your family, this wouldn't have happened." This is karma, Travis. This is what happens when you turn your back on the people who raised you. I left without another word. I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. The corporate offices of Henderson Sales Solutions looked different when you were being escorted out by security. I had walked through that lobby 1,000 times, confident and purposeful. Now people averted their eyes as I handed over my badge, my laptop, my company credit card. My boss, Jerry, a good man who had mentored me for 5 years, looked genuinely pained. "I'm sorry, Travis. I really am. But there's documentation. Fake vendor accounts set up in your name. Wire transfers totaling $40,000 over the past 6 months. The digital trail points directly to you. It's not real. Someone forged it. We'll investigate thoroughly. If you're innocent, we'll find out. But until then, my hands are tied." I left through the back entrance to avoid the stairs. In my rental car, I sat with my head against the steering wheel and tried to think. My lawyer friend, Marcus, agreed to meet me that afternoon. He looked over the documents the company had sent me, his expression growing darker. "This is sophisticated. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They created entire shell companies, forged banking documents, even faked email chains between you and these fake vendors. The emails were sent from your company account, but the IP address was traced to a residential location." "What location?" Marcus checked his notes. "Address matches your parents' house." Of course it did. Derek had been using my old laptop, the one still logged into my ancient email accounts. He had probably been planning this for months, building a false trail, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The moment I refused to pay. "We need to file a police report," Marcus said. "This is fraud. identity theft, possibly wire fraud if money actually moved. If I file a police report against my brother, my mother will never forgive me. Marcus looked at me like I was crazy. Travis, he's trying to destroy your life. Your career, your reputation, maybe even your freedom. Who cares if your mother forgives you? He was right. I knew he was right. But 32 years of conditioning doesn't disappear just because you intellectually understand it's wrong. We drove to the police station and filed a report. Detective Sarah Brennan, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, listened to my story with increasing interest. You still have access to your parents' house? I'm technically not banned from going there. Good. I'll get a warrant to search for the laptop and any other evidence. But I need to tell you, proving this kind of fraud is complicated. Even if we find the laptop, he could claim it was you accessing it remotely. Do you have any other evidence? That's when I remembered Mrs. Patterson's security footage of Derek slashing my tires. I called her, and she agreed to send everything to Detective Brennan. Over the next 2 days, my life continued its free fall. The police executed the warrant on my parents' house. They found Derek's bedroom, and what they discovered there made me physically sick. Notebooks filled with detailed plans, handwritten instructions on how to access my old accounts, screenshots of my email, my bank statements, even my social media passwords, pages and pages of reconnaissance, mapping out my life, looking for weaknesses. But they also found something I hadn't expected. Evidence that Derek had been running an insurance fraud scheme for years. Staged slip and fall accidents at grocery stores, big box retailers, restaurants. He had collected settlements totaling approximately $80,000 over the past 3 years. The man who claimed he couldn't find work had been making more money than most people with actual jobs. Detective Brennan called me with more information. Your brother has a girlfriend. Did you know that? No. He never mentioned anyone. Her name is Amber Pemberton. Her father is Richard Pemberton, owns Pemberton Real Estate Development, major player in Indianapolis commercial real estate. Your brother's been dating her for 8 months. He told her he's a consultant, making 6 figures. Showed her fake pay stubs, tax returns, the whole 9 yards. They're engaged. Engaged? Wedding's planned for 2 months from now. Venue costs $60,000. Your brother told Amber's family that his parents are wealthy, promised them a lavish wedding. That's why he needs to keep your parents' house from foreclosure. He needs the appearance of legitimacy. Everything clicked into place. Derek wasn't just destroying me out of spite. He needed my money to maintain his fake life. He needed the family home to look legitimate for Amber and her wealthy father. When I refused to pay, I became an obstacle that needed to be eliminated. My phone pinged with an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "We should talk about Derek." The email was brief. The sender claimed to be a business associate of Richard Pemberton's. He suspected Derek was lying about everything and wanted to meet. He included a phone number. I called Marcus first. He advised against meeting some random stranger. Said it could be another setup. But I was running out of options. My company had officially terminated me, citing the ongoing investigation and potential damage to their reputation. My savings account was hemorrhaging money on lawyer fees. I needed something to go right. I called the number. A man answered, his voice smooth and professional. "Travis, thank you for calling. My name is Gerald Hutchinson. I'm a business partner of Richard Pemberton's. I believe we can help each other." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Gerald was 60 years old, silver-haired, expensive suit, the kind of man who screamed old money and connections. He got right to the point. "Your brother is a fraud. I've known it from the moment Richard introduced him. But Richard's daughter is in love, and Richard wants her happy. If Derek becomes part of the Pemberton family, he'll be brought into the business. Major commercial real estate deals, millions of dollars at stake. I can't let that happen. What do you want from me? Help me expose Derek before the wedding. I'll help clear your name, Get you a job in Richard's company. Senior position, better than what you had. You help me, I help you. It sounded too good to be true, and I've learned that things that sound too good to be true usually are. But I was desperate. I agreed. Gerald outlined his plan over the next hour. He would arrange for me to reconcile with Derek publicly, get invited to the wedding. At the reception, I would get Derek to confess to everything while wearing a wire. Gerald would handle the rest. It seemed straightforward. Looking back, I should have known better. Over the next week, I worked with Gerald and Detective Brennan. The police were interested in the insurance fraud case. My embezzlement case was complicating because while they had found Derek's planning notebooks, proving he actually executed the fraud was harder than expected. A good defense attorney could argue the notebooks were just fantasy, that someone else could have done the actual embezzlement. Then Gerald showed his true colors. I received a package at my motel room. Inside was a document, a business plan. Gerald's plan to take over Pemberton real estate development by using the Derek scandal to force Richard out. And buried in the document was my name, listed as a co-conspirator. Gerald was setting me up. I called him immediately. What is this? Insurance, Travis. If you try to back out, if you go to the police, I'll make sure everyone thinks you were in on Derek's schemes from the beginning. I've already planted evidence. You'll spend the next 10 years in prison if you cross me. I hung up and sat on the motel bed, my hands shaking. I had walked right into another trap. I was caught between Derek's schemes to destroy me and Gerald's corporate warfare that would sacrifice me as collateral damage. That night, my parents' house burned down. The fire started around 3 a.m. By the time the fire department arrived, half the structure was engulfed. My parents escaped with nothing but their nightclothes. The fire marshal ruled it suspicious, found evidence of accelerant in the garage. By morning, Derek was on local news, tearfully accusing me of arson. He had edited audio recordings of me saying things like, "I wish I'd never helped them," and "They deserve whatever happens to them," taking casual comments from years of arguments and stringing them together into something that sounded like threats. My phone exploded with hate messages. Former coworkers, friends, even distant relatives who suddenly had opinions. Someone leaked my motel address to the media. News vans camped outside. I was trapped. Again, Detective Brennan called. "We know you were at work when the fire started. You have witnesses. But the damage is done. In public opinion, can you prove Derek did it? The fire marshal is investigating. But Travis, I need to be honest with you. Right now it looks bad. Really bad. Your brother has painted a picture of you as an angry, vindictive person. He's got your parents supporting his version. He's got edited audio. Even if we clear you legally, your reputation is destroyed." I sat in that motel room surrounded by the ruins of my life, and I felt something inside me go completely numb. This was rock bottom. No job, no family, facing criminal investigations for embezzlement and arson, down to my last $2,000, and trapped in a conspiracy I didn't fully understand. I had tried to do the right thing. I had tried to help my family. I had tried to set boundaries when helping became enabling. And for all of it, I had been systematically destroyed. The motel room smelled like cigarettes and defeat. I lay on the scratchy polyester bedspread and stared at water stains on the ceiling tiles, wondering if this was it. If this was how my life would end, not with some grand failure, but with a quiet whimper in a $50 a night room off Interstate 65. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications I refused to check. The news cycle had picked up my story. Local news, then regional, then somehow a national cable outlet. Successful businessman accused of embezzlement turns to arson against disabled parents and troubled brother. The narrative was clean, simple, perfect for the outrage machine. Nobody wanted to hear about insurance fraud schemes or family dysfunction or the complicated truth. They wanted a villain, and Derek had given them one. I took a job at a warehouse. Night shift, $10 an hour. Loading trucks. The hiring manager recognized me from the news but needed bodies badly enough not to care. You're not wanted for murder, are you? No? Then you can start tonight. That was the extent of my interview. The work was physically brutal but mentally blank, which was exactly what I needed. Lift, carry, stack, repeat. My body ached, but my mind could finally rest. The other guys on the shift left me alone. Everyone working night shift at a warehouse has a story they don't want to tell. During my breaks, I started digging into Derek's life. If the police and Gerald couldn't be trusted, I would find the truth myself. I created fake social media accounts and befriended people in Derek's circle. It's amazing what people will tell a stranger online. That's how I discovered the full extent of his insurance fraud operation. He had 17 separate incidents over 3 years. He worked with a lawyer named Martin Cross, who specialized in personal injury cases. Cross got 40% of each settlement. Derek got the rest. They had a system, carefully spaced out, different stores, different jurisdictions, to avoid pattern recognition. I also found Amber's social media. She was pretty, blonde, smiled a lot in photos taken at country clubs and charity galas. Her father's company owned half the commercial properties in Indianapolis. She posted about Derek constantly. My amazing fiancé, so supportive, so ambitious. Pictures of them at expensive restaurants. Derek in a suit I knew he couldn't afford. Derek holding wine glasses at vineyard tours. Derek living a completely fabricated life. The wedding was 2 months away. Venue was Willowbrook Country Club, the most expensive spot in the city. 300 guests. Amber's dress cost $18,000, according to her Instagram post about finding the one. I was eating ramen in my motel room, watching my former life play out on someone else's social media, when someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw my father. He was alone. He looked smaller somehow, older. He was wearing clothes I didn't recognize, probably donated after the fire. His disabled arm hung at his side, useless as always, but his expression was different. Focused. Determined. I opened the door. "Dad, can I come in?" I let him in. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room, taking in the evidence of my fallen life. Then he pulled out a notebook from his jacket, one of Derek's notebooks, the ones the police had seized and then released back to my parents after they couldn't use them as evidence. "I saved this before the fire. Your mother doesn't know I have it. I've been carrying it around for 3 days, trying to decide what to do. What's in it? Everything. Proof that Derek planned all of this. Proof that he started the fire himself for the insurance money. Proof that he's been lying about everything for years." He handed me the notebook. I flipped through pages of Derek's handwriting. Detailed plans for framing me. Step-by-step instructions. Diagrams showing how to make the embezzlement look real. Notes about creating fake vendors, forging documents, covering his digital tracks. And on the last pages, a plan for burning down the house, the layout of the garage, where to place accelerant, how to make it look like electrical failure. Written in Derek's distinctive scrawl, dated 2 days before the fire. "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because I saw you at the warehouse last night. I was driving by, and I saw you through the loading dock doors, lifting boxes like a common laborer. You have a degree, you had a career, and my son destroyed it all while I stood by and let it happen. I can't live with myself anymore, Travis. I can't look in the mirror." He pulled something else from his jacket. A small recording device. "Your lawyer gave this to me 3 weeks ago when he came to interview me. I've been wearing it every day, waiting for the right moment. Last night, Derek came to visit your mother and me at the motel where we're staying. He was drunk, celebrating. He told us everything. He confessed to all of it. I got it on tape." He handed me the recording device. I plugged it into my laptop and listened. Derek's voice, slurred, but unmistakable, bragging about how perfectly his plan worked, how he had destroyed me, how the insurance money from the house fire would pay for his wedding, how once he married Amber he would have access to millions, how Mom was his willing weapon, how she would always choose him, how I would always be the scapegoat. The recording was 23 minutes long. It was everything. Complete confession. Admissible in court. I looked at my father and saw tears running down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, son. I was weak. I let your mother manipulate me. I let Derek destroy you. I'm going to make this right. I'll testify. I'll tell the police everything. I'll face whatever consequences come. We went to Detective Brennan together. She listened to the recording, read through the notebook, and her expression shifted from skepticism to grim satisfaction. This is good. This is really good. But we need more. The FBI has been investigating a larger insurance fraud ring. Your brother's connected to it. If we can get him to confess to everything in front of federal agents, we can guarantee his conviction and your complete exoneration. What do you need me to do? Wear a wire. Get invited to his wedding. Make him comfortable enough to brag. Men like Derek, they can't help themselves. They need to gloat. The plan was risky and humiliating. I would have to publicly apologize to Derek, admit I was wrong, beg his forgiveness. The internet would crucify me even more than they already had, but it was my only shot at clearing my name. Then Detective Brennan dropped another bomb. We've been investigating Derek's fraud operation. The FBI is handling it now because it crosses state lines. They want you to cooperate fully. If you do, they'll clear you of all charges. Derek will go to federal prison. But there's a condition. What condition? Your mother can't know. If she finds out, she'll warn Derek. You'll have to keep pretending to reconcile with your family. You'll have to let her think you're accepting the blame. Can you do that? I looked at my father. He nodded slowly. I'll handle your mother. I'll keep her away from Derek on the day you need. Whatever it takes. So we set the trap. The FBI got involved, and that's when things got complicated. Because Gerald, the man who had tried to blackmail me, turned out to be FBI agent Gerald Hutchinson. Everything had been a setup. The corporate warfare story, the blackmail, all of it was a test to see if I was involved with Derek's schemes. They needed to know if I was a co-conspirator or a victim. I passed their test. Barely. The wedding was in 3 days. 3 days to prepare, to rehearse, to get ready for the performance of my lifetime. I had to convince Derek I was broken, that I accepted responsibility, that I was no longer a threat. I had to debase myself publicly, let thousands of strangers think I was weak and pathetic, all while wearing a wire and hoping Derek would incriminate himself. 3 days to save my life. I started with a video. Marcus helped me film it in my motel room. I sat on the edge of the bed, tried to look broken and defeated. It wasn't hard. I was broken and defeated. I just had to channel it for the camera. I want to apologize. To my brother Derek, to my parents, to everyone I've hurt with my selfishness and pride. I was wrong. I let jealousy poison me. Derek has always struggled, and instead of supporting him, I judged him. I blamed him for problems that were my own creation. I turned my back on my family when they needed me most. I'm so sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. Marcus uploaded it to social media. Within an hour, it had 10,000 views. Within 3 hours, 50,000. The comments were brutal. Some people said it was too little too late. Others said I was finally showing some humanity. A few suspected it was damage control for the criminal investigations. Nobody knew it was a carefully crafted lie, bait for a trap. Derek called me that evening. I almost didn't recognize his voice at first. He sounded cheerful, magnanimous, the voice of a man who had won. Travis, I saw your video. That took guts, man. I appreciate it. I meant every word. I've been doing some thinking. You're my brother. I don't want us to be enemies. Neither do I. Look, I'm getting married in 3 days. Saturday. It's going to be a big event. Lots of Amber's family. Lots of important people. I'd really like you to be there. It would mean a lot to Mom and Dad. Fresh start, you know? I'd be honored. Great. Come to the rehearsal dinner Friday night. Willowbrook Country Club, 7 o'clock. And Travis, thank you for apologizing, for being the bigger man. I hung up and fought the urge to throw my phone against the wall. Being the bigger man, as if he hadn't systematically destroyed my entire life. But this was the role I had to play. Submissive, grateful, broken. The next 3 days were a special kind of hell. Derek made me run errands for the wedding, pick up flowers, deliver gifts, coordinate with vendors. I played the role of dutiful brother, swallowing my rage, smiling when I wanted to scream. Other people involved in the wedding treated me with pity or contempt. Derek's friends made jokes about the failures in my family. I laughed along. Amber's family was polished and wealthy in that particular way that comes from generations of money. Her father, Richard Pemberton, was a tall man with silver hair and an air of casual authority. He shook my hand at the rehearsal dinner, his grip firm, his smile not reaching his eyes. Derek speaks very highly of you. Says you've had some tough times recently. I'm working through some things. But I'm grateful Derek's giving me a chance to be part of this celebration. Family is everything. I'm glad you boys are working things out. The rehearsal dinner was at a private room in Willowbrook Country Club. Crystal chandeliers, waiters in black ties, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. Derek had truly landed in a different world. Amber glowed as she introduced him to various relatives and business associates. Derek played his role perfectly. Confident, charming, just humble enough to be likable. Nobody suspected they were looking at a con artist. I wore the wire under my shirt. A tiny microphone the FBI had fitted me with that afternoon. Agent Hutchinson, the man I had known as Gerald, was monitoring from a van in the parking lot. 2 other agents were inside the dinner, posing as country club staff. But Derek didn't confess at the rehearsal dinner. He was too careful, too aware of the audience. He stuck close to Amber, played the devoted fiancé, barely gave me more than surface-level conversation. I started to panic. What if he didn't take the bait? What if he never gave me the opportunity I needed? The wedding day arrived. Saturday morning dawned clear and warm, perfect weather for an outdoor ceremony. I put on the suit Marcus had loaned me, a size too big but good enough. I fitted the wire again, tested it with Agent Hutchinson. The plan was simple. Get Derek alone. Get him talking. Get the confession. The ceremony was beautiful. Amber walked down an aisle lined with white roses. Derek stood at the altar in a rented tuxedo, tears in his eyes. For a moment, I almost felt bad for Amber. She had no idea she was marrying a fraud. When the minister said, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," I bit my tongue hard enough to taste blood. The reception was in the main ballroom. 300 guests, seated dinner, open bar. A band played jazz standards. Derek and Amber had their first dance. My parents sat at a table near the back. Mom hadn't spoken to me beyond cold pleasantries. Dad gave me a subtle nod when our eyes met. He knew what was coming. I waited. Let the evening progress. Let Derek drink champagne and accept congratulations and bask in his false triumph. I needed him relaxed, confident, off guard. Around 9 o'clock, I approached him. He was standing alone near the bar, watching Amber dance with her father. I touched his elbow. "Hey, can we talk for a minute? Somewhere private?" He looked at me, slightly buzzed. Guard down. "Sure, man. Let's go to the study. It's quiet there." The study was a small room off the main hallway. Wood-paneled walls lined with books, leather chairs, a fireplace. Derek closed the door behind us and poured himself a scotch from a decanter on the sideboard. "What's up?" "I just wanted to say, properly, without an audience, that I'm sorry for everything, for judging you, for not understanding what you were going through, for making things harder instead of supporting you." Derek nodded, swirling his drink. "I appreciate that. I know I haven't been perfect either. But family is family. You know, can I ask you something? Just between us?" "Sure. How did you do it? How did you turn it all around?" "A few months ago, you were living in Mom and Dad's basement. Now you're marrying into one of the richest families in Indianapolis. I'm not judging. I'm genuinely impressed." Derek smiled. That smile. That same cruel smile from when he slashed my tires. He couldn't resist. Men like Derek, they need to brag. They need someone to know how clever they are. "You really want to know?" "Yeah, I do." He sat back in a leather chair, looking like a king on a throne. "It was easy, Travis. So easy. You know why? Because you were predictable. You're the responsible one, the good son, the guy who always does the right thing. I knew exactly which buttons to push. I knew if I pushed hard enough, you'd eventually snap. And when you snapped, you'd look like the bad guy. Not me. The embezzlement thing was genius, if I say so myself. Your old laptop, man. You never wiped it. Still logged into everything. I spent months studying your patterns, learning how you write emails, how you structure deals. Creating those fake vendor accounts was child's play. The hardest part was being patient, making sure the trail looked authentic. What about the fire? Derek laughed. The fire was brilliant. Insurance money, $50,000. Enough to pay for this wedding, with some left over. And the best part? Everyone blamed you. Mom was so ready to believe you'd do something like that out of spite. She practically wrote the script for me. But won't the insurance company investigate? They already did. Ruled it accidental. Electrical failure. I was very careful about the accelerant placement. Burned from the inside out. Looked completely natural. I watched a dozen YouTube videos about arson investigation. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Keep him talking. What about Amber? Does she know any of this? Derek's expression darkened. Amber knows what I want her to know. She thinks I'm a consultant. That I come from money. That I'm her equal. After the wedding, once I'm legally part of the Pemberton family, I'll have access to everything. Richard's already talking about bringing me into the business. In 2 years, maybe 3, I'll know enough to start siphoning money. Offshore accounts, dummy corporations. By the time anyone notices, I'll have millions. Then I divorce Amber, take half her trust fund, and disappear. You're just going to use her? Travis, let me tell you something about rich people. They're so confident in their money that they're easy marks. They think wealth makes them smart. It doesn't. It makes them lazy. Richard Pemberton built an empire, sure, but he did it 30 years ago. Now he coasts. His security is a joke. His accounting practices are sloppy. I could rob him blind, and he'd never even notice until I'm long gone. What about Mom and Dad? Derek shrugged. They're my insurance policy. Mom will always choose me. Always. No matter what I do, no matter how much proof you have, she'll defend me. That's her weakness, and I've exploited it my whole life. And Dad? He's too weak to stand up to her. They'll be fine. Maybe I'll send them some money from the Cayman Islands or wherever I end up. And me? Derek leaned forward. You were the biggest obstacle. The responsible son. The one who might actually figure it out. I had to neutralize you. Destroying your career, your reputation. That was necessary. Nothing personal. Just business. But hey, here you are at my wedding, apologizing to me. I won. Completely. Totally. And you know the best part? You'll never recover from this. Even if you prove you're innocent someday, there will always be doubt. People will always wonder. Your life is over, Travis. Mine is just beginning. Before I could respond, the door opened. Agent Hutchinson walked in, followed by 2 other agents in FBI windbreakers. Derek's face went white. Derek Mitchell Patterson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, insurance fraud, arson, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Derek looked at me, then at the agents, then back at me. His face transformed from confusion to rage, to something like respect. You wore a wire. You actually wore a wire to my wedding. I stood up. Yeah? I did. Agent Hutchinson turned to me. We got everything, Travis. Full confession. You're clear. Derek lunged at me. He was bigger, stronger, fueled by rage and alcohol. His fist connected with my jaw, and I went down hard, tasting blood. He was on top of me, hands around my throat, screaming obscenities. The agents pulled him off, but not before he got in another punch to my ribs. They wrestled him to the ground, cuffed him. He was still screaming. You're dead. You hear me? You're dead. I'll destroy you. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. I got to my feet, wiping blood from my mouth. What I did was stop you. They dragged him through the ballroom. 300 guests watched in stunned silence as Derek, still in his tuxedo, was led out in handcuffs. Amber stood frozen in her wedding dress, flowers falling from her hand. Her father put his arm around her, his face a mask of fury. My parents were standing near the exit. Mom tried to go to Derek, but Dad held her back. She was screaming. You set him up! You destroyed your own brother's wedding! How could you? Dad's voice was firm. He destroyed himself. Helen, it's over. Mom turned to me. I'll never forgive you for this. Never. You're dead to me. She pushed past Dad and followed Derek out. I watched her go and felt something release in my chest. Something that had been holding me hostage my entire life. Detective Brennan approached me. You did good, Travis. Really good. Derek's going away for a long time. The FBI found evidence linking him to a fraud ring involving 17 other people. He's looking at 8 to 10 years federal prison. Minimum. What about me? You're completely cleared. All charges dropped. Your former company will be notified. I expect they'll be calling you to apologize. Probably offer you your job back. I don't want it back. Richard Pemberton appeared beside us. He looked older somehow, diminished. Mr. Patterson, I owe you an apology. I should have listened to my instincts about Derek. I should have done more research. Instead, I nearly let him into my family and my business. He handed me a business card. When you're ready, call me. I need someone with integrity in my organization. Someone who understands the value of truth. I think that someone might be you. I took the card. Thank you. The police led Derek through a gauntlet of news cameras. The story would be everywhere by morning. Groom arrested at own wedding. Fraud exposed in dramatic fashion. I would be in those stories too. Vindicated but forever linked to this disaster. I found Dad standing alone in the parking lot. He looked at me with red eyes. I'm proud of you, son. I should have said that more when you were growing up. I'm proud of you. We stood there together, father and son, in the wreckage of our family. But for the first time in years, it felt like we might actually be okay. The media storm lasted 2 weeks. Derek's arrest became a national story. The viral video of him being dragged out of his own wedding in handcuffs played on loop across every news outlet and social media platform. Journalists dug into the background, uncovered the insurance fraud ring, the embezzlement scheme, the systematic destruction of my life. The narrative shifted fast. I went from villain to victim to hero in the span of 72 hours. Henderson Sales Solutions called me 6 days after the wedding. Jerry, my former boss, sounded genuinely remorseful. Travis, we made a terrible mistake. We should have trusted you. Should have investigated more thoroughly before terminating you. We'd like to offer you your position back, with back pay for the time you were suspended, and a formal apology. I appreciate that, Jerry. But I'm not coming back. Travis, please. We value you. We know we messed up. You fired me to protect your reputation. You didn't believe me when I said I was innocent. You chose optics over loyalty. I can't work for a company that operates that way. I hung up feeling lighter than I had in months. Richard Pemberton called me the next day. We met at his office downtown, a corner suite with views of the city skyline. He looked tired, but determined. Derek fooled a lot of people, Mr. Pemberton. You're not the only one. Richard shook his head. I pride myself on reading people. I built this company by trusting my instincts about character. Derek made me doubt myself. But you, Travis, you showed real character. You sacrificed everything to do what was right. I need people like you in my organization. He offered me a position as Director of Business Development. The salary was more than double what I had made at Henderson. The benefits included company car, expense account, and equity stake in the company. It was more than I had ever imagined. I need time to think about it. Take all the time you need. But Travis, I hope you'll say yes. Not just because you'd be good for my company, but because I think my company would be good for you. A fresh start. A chance to build something new. I accepted 2 days later. The FBI investigation revealed the full scope of Derek's crimes. He had been part of an insurance fraud ring operating across 6 states. 17 people were arrested in coordinated raids. Derek was the youngest member, but one of the most prolific. His fake slip and fall accidents had netted $83,000 in settlements over 3 years. Combined with the embezzlement, the arson, and the wire fraud involved in his schemes against me, he was facing 22 federal charges. His lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Derek refused. He insisted on going to trial, convinced he could charm a jury the way he had charmed everyone else his entire life. He was wrong. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison. No parole. He would serve every day. I didn't attend the sentencing. I had moved on. My parents' situation resolved itself in an unexpected way. The insurance company paid out the fire claim despite Derek's arson. The investigators had ruled it accidental before Derek's arrest, and legally they couldn't reverse their decision based on his later confession to an unrelated party. Dad used the money to pay off the mortgage and bought a small condo in a retirement community. He filed for divorce from Mom 3 months after Derek's arrest. Mom moved in with her sister in Louisville. She never spoke to me again. She wrote letters to Derek in prison every week. She visited him monthly. She still believed he was the victim, that I had somehow orchestrated everything to frame my innocent brother. Some people can't be saved from their own delusions. Dad and I had dinner every Sunday. We didn't talk about Derek or Mom. We talked about football, about my new job, about normal father-son things we had never done before. He looked healthier. His doctor said his blood pressure had dropped significantly. Removing toxic stress from his life had literally extended it. I started dating again 6 months after the trial. Her name was Jennifer. She was an accountant at one of Richard's companies, smart and funny, and refreshingly drama-free. She knew my story because everyone knew my story, but she didn't treat me like a victim or a celebrity. She treated me like a regular person. It was exactly what I needed. A year after Derek's arrest, I got a call from a nonprofit organization that helped families dealing with financial abuse. They wanted me to speak at their annual fundraiser. I agreed. Standing in front of 200 people, Telling my story, I realized something. My pain had purpose. My experience could help others recognize the patterns of manipulation and enabling before they destroyed lives. I became a regular speaker. Financial literacy classes, support groups for adult children of dysfunctional families, anywhere people needed to hear that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, that protecting yourself wasn't betrayal, that you couldn't save people who didn't want to be saved. I donated $50,000 to the nonprofit. Richard matched it. Together we established a scholarship fund for young people from abusive or manipulative family situations who needed financial support to escape and build independent lives. Derek wrote me a letter from prison. It arrived 2 years into his sentence. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was 5 pages long. He blamed me for everything. The arrest, the conviction, the destruction of his life. He said I had always been jealous of him, had always wanted to be the favorite son, had orchestrated the entire thing out of spite. There was no remorse, no acknowledgement of what he had done, just rage and victimhood and conspiracy theories. I burned the letter and never thought about it again. My career flourished. Richard promoted me to vice president after 18 months. I led the acquisition of 3 major properties. I brought in $12 million in new business. I was good at my job, better than I had been before, because I wasn't carrying the weight of my family's dysfunction anymore. Jennifer and I got engaged 3 years after we started dating. Simple proposal, nothing flashy. Just the 2 of us on a beach in South Carolina. She said yes before I finished asking. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, 50 people. Just friends and people who actually cared about us. Dad walked me down the aisle. I cried like a baby. Amber Pemberton recovered from the scandal. She went back to school, got her MBA, joined her father's company in a real capacity instead of as decoration. We became friends, bonded by the shared experience of being fooled by the same con artist. She started a foundation helping victims of romance fraud, turned her pain into purpose. Just like I had. I ran into one of Derek's old friends at a coffee shop 5 years after the trial. He asked if I ever felt guilty about what happened to Derek. I thought about it for a moment. No. Derek made his choices. He chose to lie, to steal, to destroy. I just chose not to be destroyed. There's a difference. The friend nodded like he understood, but I don't think he did. People who haven't lived through that kind of systemic manipulation never fully understand. They think it's simple. Just say no. Just walk away. They don't understand the guilt, the obligation, the years of conditioning that make you doubt your own perception of reality. But I understood. And more importantly, I had broken free. I'm sitting in my home office now, 7 years after Derek's arrest. Through the window I can see Jennifer in the garden, planting tomatoes. We bought this house 2 years ago. A modest place in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy. We don't need fancy. We need peaceful. And that's what we have. Dad is coming over for Sunday dinner tonight. He's 70 now, still working part-time at the hardware store because he says retirement makes him feel useless. His health is good, better than it's been in 20 years. He laughs more now, makes jokes. He's become the father I always wished I'd had. I haven't spoken to my mother in 7 years. She sends a Christmas card every year, always signed just from her, never acknowledging me directly. The cards go straight into the recycling bin. I don't hate her. I don't feel much of anything toward her anymore. That's how I know I've healed. Indifference is the opposite of love. Not hate. Derek is scheduled for release next year. He'll be 38 years old, with a felony record and no prospects. I've heard through the family grapevine that Mom is planning to let him move in with her. History repeating itself. I won't be there to watch it this time. People ask me sometimes if I have regrets. If I wish I had handled things differently. The honest answer is complicated. I regret waiting so long to set boundaries. I regret letting guilt control me for so many years. I regret not seeing the truth about my family sooner. But I don't regret how it ended. Derek needed to face consequences. I needed to be free. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let others face the natural results of their choices. I learned lessons I couldn't have learned any other way. I learned that enabling helps no one. It doesn't help the person being enabled because it prevents them from growing, from facing reality, from becoming self-sufficient. And it destroys the enabler, turning them into a resource to be exploited rather than a person to be loved. Real love requires boundaries. Real love sometimes means watching someone struggle, because that struggle is how they learn and grow. I learned that you cannot sacrifice yourself into someone else's growth. I spent 7 years paying my parents' mortgage, thinking I was helping them. But I was just postponing the inevitable. They needed to face their financial reality. Derek needed to face the consequences of his choices. By cushioning every blow, I was preventing the very growth I hoped to encourage. I learned that toxic family members will burn your life down rather than build their own. Derek had opportunities. He had intelligence, charm, capability. He could have gotten a job, built a career, created a real life, but that would have required work and humility and accepting responsibility. It was easier to manipulate, to lie, to destroy. Easier to be a victim than to be accountable. I learned that your value is inherent, not based on what you provide others. For years I measured my worth by how much I gave my family. If I paid the mortgage, I was a good son. If I refused, I was selfish. That's a trap. Your worth, as a human being, has nothing to do with your utility to others. You are valuable because you exist. Period. I learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. When Derek destroyed my career, my reputation, my savings, I thought my life was over. But it wasn't. It was just beginning. I found out who I really was when I had nothing left to lose. I discovered strength I didn't know I had. I built a new life on a foundation of truth instead of obligation. Most importantly, I learned that real family supports you. They don't exploit you. Dad proved that in the end. He chose truth over comfort. He chose integrity over enabling. That's when our relationship became real. That's when I finally had a father instead of just a parent. Real family wants you to thrive. They celebrate your boundaries instead of punishing them. They support your growth, even when it's inconvenient for them. I still volunteer with the Financial Abuse Nonprofit. I speak at their events 3 or 4 times a year. I tell my story not because I enjoy reliving it, but because I see my younger self in the faces of the people in those audiences. People trapped in cycles of guilt and obligation. People being systematically drained by family members who see them as ATMs instead of human beings. People who need permission to walk away. I tell them the same thing every time. You're not responsible for fixing other people's lives. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a healthy person. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone experience the full consequences of their choices. Does it hurt? Yes. Walking away from family, even toxic family, is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. There will be guilt. There will be grief. There will be people who judge you, who tell you that blood is thicker than water. But the full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." The family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. I chose Jennifer. I chose Dad after he chose truth. I chose the people at work who respected my boundaries and valued my contributions. I chose friends who supported my healing instead of enabling my dysfunction. That's my real family now. Jennifer comes in from the garden, dirt on her knees, smiling. Dinner's in an hour. "Your dad just called. He's bringing dessert." She kisses my forehead and heads upstairs to shower. This is my life now. Simple. Peaceful. Real. The doorbell rings. I open it to find a young man, maybe 25, nervous and fidgeting. He apologizes for showing up unannounced. He heard me speak at a nonprofit event last month. He's dealing with a similar situation. A brother who won't work, parents who enable it, expectations that he should sacrifice his future to fund theirs. He doesn't know what to do. I invite him in, make him coffee, spend an hour talking through his options, validating his feelings, giving him permission to protect himself. He leaves looking lighter, more hopeful. This is why I tell my story. This is the purpose I found in the pain. As the sun sets, Dad arrives with a chocolate cake from the bakery on 5th Street. We eat dinner together, the three of us, and it feels like family, real family. The kind built on respect and honesty, instead of obligation and guilt. Later, after Dad leaves and Jennifer is reading in bed, I sit on the back porch and think about the journey. 7 years ago, I was living in a motel room, working a warehouse job, facing criminal charges for crimes I didn't commit. My career was destroyed. My reputation was ruined. My family had turned on me. I had nothing. Now I have everything that matters. A career I'm proud of. A marriage built on trust. A real relationship with my father. Purpose and peace. And the freedom to live authentically. Derek took everything from me. But in doing so, he freed me from a prison I didn't even know I was in. He's in an actual prison now, paying for his crimes. I'm out here, living the life he could have had if he'd made different choices. That's not revenge. That's just justice. So here's what I want you to understand. If you're in a situation like I was, you're not obligated to destroy yourself to save someone else. You're not required to fund someone else's dysfunction. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose yourself. It will be hard. People will judge you. You'll feel guilty. You'll question yourself. Do it anyway. Choose yourself anyway. Save yourself anyway. Because on the other side of that pain is freedom. And freedom is worth everything. I went through hell to learn these lessons. I paid a price that no one should have to pay. But I came out the other side, stronger, wiser, and more at peace than I ever was when I was trying to be the good son who fixed everything. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. All you can do is protect yourself and hope that someday they'll choose to save themselves. That's the truth I learned in the ruins of my family. That's the message I'll spend the rest of my life sharing. And if my story helps even one person choose freedom over obligation, then everything I went through was worth it. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been stuck in a situation where you felt obligated to keep giving, even when it was destroying you? Have you dealt with family members who saw you as a solution to their problems, instead of a person with your own life? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and maybe, just maybe, help someone realize they're not alone in what they're going through. And subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their way through. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. We all know someone trapped in an unhealthy family dynamic. Someone sacrificing themselves for people who don't appreciate it. Maybe your share will be the thing that gives them permission to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. I hope you find your own path to freedom and peace. Whatever that looks like for you. Take care of yourselves. You're worth it.